first place and to start on the journey of that is to kind of moving into the experiential, isn't it? Where we start moving from our head down into our heart and becoming still and creating those places, spaces and times for ourselves for that self-love to start to radiate from us, from within us. And that's like the sun within, and I always talk about the sun, start here, and you don't, quieten yourself down from the external world just in a small incremental ways, like just giving yourself a little time to sit with yourself. And like what I love to do is, start really small with enjoying something each day, picking something that you like to do for you, and regardless of everybody else. Like, is it just even focusing on like if you like to drink a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, just really taste it and bring in the sensation of it, because really when you're in your head, you're not really experiencing life in its fullest, and that's what we want to get you to, feeling life in its fullest, you have to feel in your body first to be able to feel that. And then what great is in the senses, smelling, like if it's a coffee, smelling it, or feeling the warmth of the cup, and then feeling it going, as you drink it, drinking it down, tasting it, really just starting to experience life, in its fullest, with just something small that you can enjoy. And it's amazing how little practices like that can really start to change your relationship with life.
Well, you said that yesterday when we were talking about this webinar and what we were going to share about, one of the things you said to me was, we were talking about this feeling of women saying that they sort of felt frozen, like quite numb. And you said to me, well, so the frozenness, it's just about bringing the warmth back in. And I'm like, oh my God, like we don't think as literally like that, right? But literally, it's like bringing the warmth back into our body by feeling our body, by actually sitting and doing something that feels warm, that feels good, and like these are so, like, I just have to say, our minds will go, oh my God, I've got to find the feminine force. How do I do that? What do I have to do? I've got to do all these things and it's really hard. And it's like another to do, like just in your mind do that, right? But honestly, if I can say one thing, and I'm going to say this again and again and again and again, what we have to do is feel. So we have to be at ease with our emotions. We have to be able to feel the experience of being a body, and Mother Nature does the rest for us. Even with self-love, if we start to look at what's in the way of us loving ourselves and deal with that emotion, and if we start to just experience our life, Mother Nature actually grows my self-love in me. Like, I didn't have to decide. And see, this is what I think where we're sort of getting a little bit sort of askew at the moment, is there's all this stuff. You've got to love yourself. You've got to love yourself. You've got to love yourself. You can tell me until the cows come home, I'm not going to love myself. If there's some emotion that's in the way, if there's a feeling experience that's getting in the way of me feeling the love that's coming out of my heart and experiencing myself as love and really being that, the emotion is going to get in the way. So you can tell me as much as you want that I've got to love myself. And I think this is what's happening. All these women are being told you've got to love yourself, you've got to love yourself.
How do you do
and
that?
It adds to this like list of things that we've got to do, right? And it hasn't freaking worked because we've been trying it and it hasn't worked, right? Because we really need to return to this feminine force and remove the emotional blocks that are in the way of that. So then loving myself is natural. It just happens. I don't have to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And just thinking of it like a seed. So we're all born with a little seed, and the seed is our potential. So the potential is in, say, imagine it's in your chest, and in that seed is your true self. So what do seeds need? They need the sunlight. Then they're hidden under the earth at the moment.
Under the permafrost.
And they're kind of it's the winter time, we'll say, like in Ireland, and they're under the ground, but they've been there all your life. You were born with it, and it's just that it's covered over with the earth and it's this frozen ground. But the spring is coming now. We're not far from the spring, so the sun is starting to rise and it's starting to get warmer, and then we get the rain as well in the spring, which is going to give us, that's the community that nourishes us and enriches the soil, and it softens the soil. So it gives the kind of environment for the growth to start to happen. But when we start doing the practices, like we're bringing the heat into our body, into the sun in our cells, that's activating and actually breaking open the shell around seed. So then naturally it'll give a chance for it to start to push up through the soil, and eventually then it's like that. Once it gets a little momentum, it'll keep growing and growing and growing. And as you feed it and you sit in the sun of yourself, and then you make sure that you're feeding yourself, looking after yourself, and then actually bringing in, like, the teachings that we have and the community, and that will keep that beautiful feeling, because the feeling has to be, surround yourself with that gorgeous kind of sun and, enriching kind of relationships and community, and that really kind of makes that, and take away the stones and everything that
and the weeds.
And the weeds and all those emotions. So as you kind of go through the process of, I suppose, feeling into those, you're weeding your garden, you have to do that before the seeds have space for that beautiful blossoming to happen.
That's so true. And that's literally all we have to do is weed our garden. And I think that's probably my expertise, is how do we weed the garden? Like, how do we actually deal with our emotions in a way that we're not separating them from ourselves or denying them or resisting them, but we're actually integrating them. And we'll talk more on that at another time. But we want to do that work. But before we go, because we're really aware we wanted to keep this short, we just wanted to give you some key takeaways. So first of all, it's that really enjoying a moment during your day, like feeling the warmth, imagining the warmth in your body, and something that gives you that feeling of warmth, and practicing the experience of being in your body and feeling your body. And even if it's just a moment here and there, just breathing into the heart breath, that practice of really starting to feel the feelings and imagine your inner sun, like Carolyn said. I love that when she said the inner sun warming you up from the inside, because what that's doing is that's getting the seed ready to crack open. So if you're thinking like that all the time, it's a lot more inviting, isn't it, to sit in that space? So the other couple of things that I always recommend is, when you have a reaction to something, if you can use the moment of pure potential between when the event happens and your reaction, there's a moment in there, and that's a moment of pure potential that you can actually change your trajectory. In that moment, if you can just pause for a minute and just think, oh, where am I feeling this feeling? Like, look for the feeling, because there will be a feeling that's created the reaction. And if you look for the feeling, and if you remind yourself, this is an opportunity for me now to step into an emerging process and really support the feminine force in me to start growing. This is your opportunity. So our mind and the way we've been taught is often not to see these moments as opportunities. We're actually taught to control, to fix it, to do something about it. But what I'd love to suggest is that you switch that attitude and you think, oh, this is an opportunity to step into this emerging process of growing the feminine force in me, and validate the emotion, acknowledge it. It may be uncomfortable. You may feel ashamed of it. You may not want to feel it, but it's there. So you validating it and going, okay, well, why wouldn't I feel like this? It doesn't mean I have to act on it. Doesn't mean I have to do anything. Doesn't mean I have to throw that kid out the window because they're making me feel like that. Doesn't mean that, right? It's just, I've got that feeling, and it's normal that we have those feelings. So if you can acknowledge and just embrace your feeling as part of the experience that you're having right now, you'll find that it actually diffuses more, because when we resist it and we try to get rid of it, that feelings grow and grow and grow. So we want to move, we want to imagine that every feeling that's coming up in our body, like an event happens, we have a feeling in our body, we want to imagine that we're just moving with that. We're just moving with that. And that's how this seed, this feminine force is going to work. It's like this process, this beautiful emerging process. And so it might be painful, but we're just going to keep moving with it. We're going to try and stop our mind from telling stories by reminding ourselves it's an opportunity, because as soon as you tell your mind it's an opportunity, your mind actually comes on side and it stops giving you such a hard time in creating stories.
Yeah.
So those couple of little takeaways, is there anything that I've missed, Carolyn? Anything you can think of that might be really practical things that we can do every day?
I know, I think that's fantastic, actually. And just to be aware of, start to become aware of the narratives that your mind starts telling you, you know, the stories that it starts telling you about the feelings, because the minute a feeling happens, then you start turning it into a narrative, you know. And I think to stop that happening is return back to the body again, just to see
Yes.
to feel the emotion as a sensation, as an energy kind of that's going to move through your body, and be okay with that, because it's just an emotion. It's not going to harm you, you know. It's just something that's going to move past you, and it's trying to tell you something, you know. And you just, and to, you know, to start to become at home with that. At home is the practice of really just allowing and embracing our emotions, like they're part of you and they're beautiful, like they're, you know, I mean, like even sad emotions, like the most famous artists in the world, you know, like we all get inspired by sad events, and there's beauty in everything, you know. So like even feeling into something that could be sad, it's beautiful, because maybe, you know, it's love in disguise.
Yes.
It'll,
Yeah.
you know, and it'll
Love in
move past.
disguise. Yeah.